Welcome everybody. In this video, we are going to get into Visual Studio Code and get our first little website set up. And before you start, you should have a couple of things ready. You should have Visual Studio Code installed. You should have a location on your computer created where you can store all of your project files. And you should have Chrome installed. So if you don't have any of those things set up, go ahead and pause and get them set up. And if you need help with that, raise your hand and let me know. And once you've got that done, come back. So before we get started, a couple of notes. First, please watch the entire video through before you start doing any code. I know that I'm going to be doing a couple of different files and coding in a couple of different ways, but go ahead and watch that all the way through. And then when it's time to code those, you can pull up the video, scrub back to where I entered the code, and type that into your own Visual Studio environment. Second thing I'll say is if you have any questions, if you have any problems, if you're not sure what to do at any point, feel free to raise your hand, let me know, and we'll take a look at it together. So we've got everything set up on this computer, got Visual Studio Code. You can see it down here in the dock. I've got Chrome, so we're ready to go. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code, and you may or may not have a folder open up over here. If you don't see anything over here, go to File, Open Folder, and navigate to the place where you picked to store your files for this class. And for the videos, I've created a separate little environment called Web Development Videos. And so you see it's the same thing I had when I opened up, but it's a blank folder. And just to reinforce the connection between what we're seeing in Visual Studio Code and what's actually on the hard drive, I'm going to navigate to that location in Finder. On a PC, you'll be navigating to it in Windows Explorer, but I put it in my Documents folder, and I put it in a folder called Web Development Video. So you can see that location is empty. So if you remember from our discussion in class last time, there are three things that most web pages have. One of them is an HTML file, which holds the content for the web page. So if you're reading an article, all of the words in the article are in the HTML. It's got a CSS file, which holds the formatting. So that's things like what font you use, how paragraphs align relative to each other, how the multiple different types of elements on a screen are supposed to flow and show up, stuff like that. And then you've got a JavaScript file, which generally defines the behavior of the site. So our first website is going to have sort of a skeleton version of all three of those. And so I'm just going to right click here in my little Visual Studio Code, the Project Navigator pane, and I'm going to create a new file. And for whatever reason, the main HTML file for a website is called index.html. I'm going to type that in, hit enter, and it's going to create it here and give me the opportunity to edit. And you'll notice over here in my web development folder, it creates that you can see that file get created, right? So what I'm seeing in this pane and what I'm seeing over here, that's a reflection of the same thing. So the HTML file we're going to create is going to be skeletal at first, and I'm just going to show you how to do this. So it's going to start with a doc type, and you'll notice that as I'm typing this in, Visual Studio Code knows what I'm doing, and it's suggesting to me what I want to type. So I can either type this out, or I can just hit the tab key, and it's going to complete that statement, that tag for me. So this is just telling whatever program is looking at this file, which is going to be Google Chrome in a minute, that it is an HTML document. And an HTML document, we're also going to create a little tag here that says HTML. And you'll notice it automatically creates a tag for me that says /HTML. So one of the fundamental things we're going to be doing in HTML, and we're going to work a little bit with it today, and then we're going to focus on JavaScript for a little bit. But you have opening and closing tags. So basically, this is saying everything in between these two is the HTML document. And HTML documents they can have a lot of different parts, but we're going to create one with two basic parts today. We are going to create a head, which is sort of the header of the page. And we are going to create a body, which is the body of the page. So when we do this, we've got a full HTML page. We've got a web page we can load right now. It's just not a very full-featured one. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's see what that looks like in Chrome. So I'm going to open up Google Chrome here. And instead of navigating to a location in the bar, I'm going to go File, Open File. And I'm going to go to the place where I saved all these files. So that is in Documents, it is in Web Development Videos, and you can see my index.html. I'm going to open it up, and it is a blank page. Not super impressive, but it is a correctly formatted, correctly written HTML file. And the parts of those are the doc type, the open and close HTML tags. And you'll notice Visual Studio Code knows what these things are. I can fold it up. And I can fold up any of these little individual tags. So, but we want some stuff on this web page, right? We want to put some stuff in here. So we want to give it a title. And the sort of classic first program title is Hello World with an exclamation point. So we're going to call this Hello World, and that's going to be the title of our page. And then we want a little bit of text on the page itself. So in order to create text, we're going to want to make a paragraph element, which is a P, really easy. And then we put our text inside of the paragraph element. So we're just going to say Hello World. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go File, Save. In Visual Studio Code, you have to manually save. And when I go over to Chrome, which still has this file open, and hit Reload, I've got Hello World. And you'll notice it shows up here on the page, and that's this element right here. And it also shows up in the title. So this little title up here says Hello World. And on Windows, that'll be in the title bar. And we can see that these are two different things. So I can change this to say Hello World title. And I save this. I reload it. And now it says Hello World title up here, and it just says Hello World on the main page. So this is a web page, but it doesn't have the styling elements and the interactivity elements that we're used to seeing in a web page. So we're also going to create a little CSS file, and we are going to call it, let's call it default.css. And you'll notice we get a different little symbol over here again because Visual Studio Code recognizes this. Now, the HTML doesn't automatically know to include the CSS file. So we are going to do it by creating a link tag. And this is going to look a little bit different than the other tags. And you'll notice that I'm typing in some of these quotes a little bit incorrectly here. Go back and fix that. And we called it default.css. And so a couple of things about this is this tag has some things that are called attributes. And you'll notice these attributes are defined inside of the angled brackets. So this is a link to a style sheet. And the href is just the style sheet we're using. It's called default.css. And there's not actually anything inside of the link tag. We can just leave it like this. And we can save this. And now our CSS will load. Now, if I reload the web page, it's not going to do anything because our CSS file is empty. So let's style the text a little bit. Let's say that we want to change the way this text is colored. So in CSS, what you do is you specify the different elements you want to style, and then you say how you want to style them. So if we remember from the HTML file, this is a P or a paragraph element. And so let's say we want to style all of our paragraphs in a certain way. So I'm going to type in a P, and this is a curly brace. I'm going to open up a curly brace. And you'll notice again, the IDE creates a little space for me here. And let's say that I want the color of my paragraph text to be green. Super simple, right? One of the nice things about Visual Studio Code, it actually pops up the little color right here. So we can see exactly what color it's going to be. So in here, I'm going to hit File, Save All, because I need to save all of these files. And then I'm going to reload it. And you'll notice the text is green now. And because this is a style applied to every P element, if I make any more, so I go back to index.html, and I'm going to add just a couple more of these. And I'm going to save all. And I'm going to reload it. And we'll see that, number one, I did not spell paragraph correctly. So let's go fix that. And number two, it is applying the same styling to all of them. They've all got that green text. So there's ways of only targeting some of these. We're not going to get into that right now. The basics of what I want you to get are the basics of a website are three things. There is an HTML file, there is a CSS file, and there's a JavaScript file. We're not going to do that in this video. That'll be in the next video. But the HTML has the content, the CSS has the styling, and the JavaScript has the behavior. And we'll take a look at that in the next video. So what I would like you to do at the end of this video is I want you to get into Visual Studio Code. I want you to create your own index.html file. I want you to have this tag, make sure you've got the HTML tags, make sure you've got a head and a body, give it a title, and give it at least a little hello world paragraph. That's kind of a lot, and I'm expecting that you will pull this video back up and basically sort of code along with it. But you don't have to have this same text in here. You do need to have a well-formed HTML called index.html. You also need to make a CSS file. You can style the paragraph. You can give it any color you want, and you'll notice, let's say I want to give it a different color. If I start typing in here, it's going to give me a lot of suggestions. So there's one called Rebecca Purple. Let's try that. Give it a color, style your paragraph elements with a color. And so when you have created your index.html, your default.css, and gotten all of this together where you've got some text in here and you've got some styling on it, let me know, and that'll be your first skills check for this class. So good luck with the work. And like I said, if you have any questions, concerns, or if you'd like me to take a look at anything, just raise your hand and we will look at it together.